Hello and welcome to Watch Releases Recap for the week of September 9th until September 16th. Let's begin with Bulova and their new Oceanographer GMTs. Bulova Oceanographer Diver is one of those underrated watches that flies under the radar of a lot of watch collectors. It's a diver that you can buy for around $400 that packs a lot of value for your money. Well, now Bulova introduced 3 new GMTs to this Oceanographer collection. The 3 new colors are very vintage inspired, there is no two ways about it. Bulova, just like many other brands, are leaning heavily on that 1970s design aesthetic and also on their own heritage. There's a black and white color combination one with a fully loomed dial. I think that one looks the best out of the 3. There's also the PVD coated rose gold one, sort of the root beer homage, and then there is the standard Pepsi. Of course, if you're gonna do a GMT that's 1970s inspired, you gotta do the Pepsi. That's gonna be the #1 seller. I can already almost predict it. It might be competing with that root beer. Before you discount this release as a simple Rolex GMT Master homage, let me tell you that it has enough of its own identity and also it packs a lot of value for the price. So first, the pricing. The 2 watches on bracelets, the root beer and the Pepsi, cost $1,350 and the one on the rubber strap, the one with the cream dial and a black bezel, that one is $1,295. For that money you get a sapphire crystal with AR coating. It's a cool boxed and domed sapphire. I think it looks very vintage inspired. You also get an automatic GMT movement from a Miyota. It's a 9 series movement without the independent jumping hand, so it's not a true GMT movement, but it does have a date complication and it is a high beat movement with 42 hours of power reserve. The watch also comes with 200 meters of water resistance and this cool cushion style case. The diameter is great too, 41 millimeters. If you know anything about these cushion style cases, you know they do a bit of a disappearing act on your wrist. So truly this watch should wear closer to 40, maybe even 39 millimeters, which is excellent. I'm really happy about this release. I think it looks kick-ass. What do you guys think? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Let's move on to the next one. Seiko 5 Sport Bruce Lee Limited Edition, reference SRPK 39. Personally, I'm a fan of Bruce Lee and I think a lot of men of a certain age share that sentiment. He represented a lot of that good philosophy that we want to see from a fighter. I think if I were to choose any company to do a limited edition watch for Bruce Lee, I would choose Seiko. I don't know why, but in my mind it just fits. Seiko and Bruce Lee goes hand in hand, and I think this limited release actually looks kind of cool. These Seiko 5 series are no strangers to weird and quirky limited releases. We've seen a bunch of them in the past, and this one is no exception. I like the color combination, I like the pops of yellow, of course, the homage to that iconic Bruce Lee yellow suit with black stripes. Speaking of that suit, with this watch you also get a NATO strap with the same color combination, even black hardware, which is a good attention to detail. The watch has a black PVD coated case, a black bezel and a black dial. Even the date wheel is executed in black to match the color of the dial. A lot of great stuff. It even comes in special packaging. And the price for this watch is 520 euros, which is around $600 US, and it is a limited edition, but it's a huge limited edition of 15,000 pieces. The new TAG Heuer Monaco Night Diver. Monaco is up there among most iconic chronograph watches in the world. Just seeing a silhouette of this watch, you know exactly what it is. TAG Heuer has been trying to capitalize on this popularity for a long time. I don't blame them. It's one of the most popular watches in the world. This time they released it in a 39mm titanium case with PVD coating. I think that looks really good, especially in a combination with an all loomed dial. I really like how this loom looks. The edges of the dial are loomed, as well as the 2 sub-dials and of course the TAG Heuer Monaco logo. I don't know if TAG Heuer has done a fully loomed dial in the past. If they have, I can't think of any models off the top of my head, but if they haven't, they should do more of these models. I think this looks sick. And even without the loom, just the watch itself in the daylight also looks pretty damn good. The sizing of the watch, as I mentioned, is pretty conservative, 39 by 39, although these square watches do wear larger. It is a bit on the thicker side of 14.3 millimeters, but it's not too bad for an automatic movement chronograph. The watch is priced at 9,300 Swiss francs and it's limited to 600 pieces. The new Tudor Pelagos FXD. Yes, you heard that right. Once again, there is a new Pelagos because earlier this year we saw 2 new additions to the Pelagos lineup of watches. Seems like Tudor is really trying to beef up this line. If you're not familiar with the line of Pelagos, let me quickly go over them. So there is the 2 OG models, the one with the black dial and the black bezel, and the one with the blue dial and the blue bezel. These versions come with the left hand and right hand drive. So the left hand drive is your standard one with the crown at the 3 o'clock position. The right hand drive is the crown at the 9 o'clock position for you to be able to wear this watch on the right hand. A couple of years ago, Tudor released FXD version of this watch. It was basically the same watch with a different marking on the dial and solid lugs. The idea is that when you have the watch on your wrist and you can only wear it on a NATO strap, it won't ever fall off because there are no pins to give out. So no matter how much you bang the watch against anything, it's not gonna rip off unless you rip the strap, and that's pretty difficult. You probably will lose your arm before you lose this watch. This original FXD was released in a collaboration with French Marines. Then a year later, we got Tudor Pelagos 39mm. This watch was completely different from the OG Pelagos. It was in a smaller case, it had a completely different look, and it got a pretty positive response from a watch collecting community. Then earlier this year, Tudor released 2 different versions of Pelagos, one chronograph, one standard diver. Now these watches were in a collaboration with Red Bull Racing, but not the Verstappen one. And now in September 2023, they released a new version of Pelagos, again this FXD version with solid lugs. Now this version is pretty much the same as the one from a couple of years ago, the one that was in a collaboration with French Marines. Now it's in a black color. That's pretty much all you need to know about this watch. Everything else, from my understanding, stayed about the same. It still has the same movement, the same water resistance, the same bezel, the same crown and crown guards, and even the same design other than the color combination. I'm a big fan of Tudor Pelagos, but I like the OG version with the blue dial and the blue bezel. I think these FXD versions are cool, but they're missing one of the best parts about this watch, and it's the bracelet. Pelagos bracelet is one of the best in the business, and even though this watch is great and it has slightly different purpose, I would still go for the original one with that titanium awesome bracelet. But hey, that's just me. What do you guys think? Would you choose this FXD or the OG Pelagos? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm genuinely curious to see what people would prefer. Moving on to the next release. Apple has released a couple of new watches. There was a Series 9 and an Apple Watch Ultra. Moving on to Seiko and their Presage with Enamel or Urushi dials. Seiko has something called the Craftsmanship series of watches. It's basically a Presage series of watches with a higher quality. It's a line of watches above sharp-edged and above cocktail time. They have better dials, better movements, and slightly better finishes on the cases. Well, now Seiko added 3 new versions to this Craftsmanship line of watches, and all 3 look amazing. First, you have the white enamel version with blue set of hands. Then there is a black dial version with a gold seconds hand, which is a cool look. And there is a green dial version also with a gold seconds hand. I think that version is my favorite, but it's the only version that comes on a leather strap. The other 2 versions come on the new Seiko bracelet. These watches have great case sizes, 40.3mm in diameter, they're only 11.6mm thick, and they have a 48mm lug-to-lug distance, which should fit most wrists just fine. They also come with sapphire crystals and 100 meters of water resistance, and the best part is that they're powered by the Seiko's in-house caliber 6R55 automatic movement, which is not a high beat movement, but it does have 72 hours of power reserve. And I think these watches are also priced fairly. The prices range from 1500 euros for the black dial version to 1750 euros for the green dial version and 1800 euros for the white dial version, because that's the only one that has an enamel dial and it is a handmade dial. I think in fact all 3 have handmade dials. So these watches are sort of a step below King Seiko, but a step above regular Presage. It's an interesting position in the market, and I wonder how popular these watches will be with the watch collecting community. The new Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean 600 meters Deep Black ETNZ edition. Doesn't that name just roll right off your tongue? A watch like this is exactly why I love Omega. It's clearly not for me. I don't do sailing, I've never even been on a sailing boat in my life, I don't know how any of that stuff works. On top of that, the watch is actually quite ridiculous. Only Omega and a handful of other companies are ballsy enough to create such a ridiculous timepiece. First of all, the design is clearly so over the top. The things that I like about it are the color scheme and the shape of the case. It's your standard Planet Ocean case, just a little bit larger. We'll talk about that in a second. But the color scheme has this black and light blue color combination, which really works for me. It's the watch designed for a purpose. It's designed for sail racing, so it has functions specific to that. It has a specific countdown on its chronograph designed for that. Although I don't know why it needs to say countdown indicator on it. I mean, clearly that's what it is. Maybe get rid of that writing altogether. I also like the little accents on the pushers and the little accents on the strap itself. The case is made out of black ceramic and it has this matte look, which really works with the overall design of the watch. It's good that it's a ceramic case because ceramic cases tend to be lighter, because this watch is ginormous. It's 45.5 millimeters in diameter. Okay, that sounds pretty big, but not that big. But what is ginormous about this is the thickness, almost 19 millimeters. Why is it 19 millimeters? It only has 600 meters of water resistance. I mean, I say only 600 meters of water resistance is a lot of water resistance, but it's not like it has thousands of meters of water resistance. And it's not like it's a crazy complicated watch. It has a chronograph complication, but that's about it. It doesn't need to be 19 millimeters thick unless I'm missing something. The watch was created to celebrate 37th America Cup competition, and it's designed in a collaboration with Emirates Team New Zealand. It is sort of similar to the watch that we've seen earlier this year from Tudor called Pelagos FXD in a collaboration with Red Bull Racing. That was also a Sail Team Racing collaboration watch. I'm really glad that this watch exists, even though it's not for me. It's huge, it's ridiculous, it's over the top, it's expensive at 12,000 euros. But it's there, and Omega is doing something different. I hope they create the same design in a smaller, more reasonable case. Then I'd be more interested. The Grand Seiko Heritage Reference SBGW303, the European Market Exclusive Edition. Another week, another Grand Seiko release. Seems like every time I do this video, there has to be a new Grand Seiko released. Those guys are working harder than anyone else in the industry. This one is being a little unique because it's European market exclusive, which means it will only be sold in Europe. Hey, a win for my European brothers. I found it interesting that the watch comes in a bit of a smaller case. It's 36.5 millimeters in diameter. Usually Grand Seiko releases their sports models in larger cases, but this is a welcome news for people with smaller wrists or people that prefer smaller watches. The case thickness is also not too bad, 11.6 millimeters. It comes in a stainless steel case with that legendary Zaratsu polish. The watch also features a stainless steel bracelet. You can take this watch swimming if you want to. It has 100 meters of water resistance. Inspired by the Grand Seiko Excalibur 9S64 automatic movement. It's not the crazy high beat movement that Seiko has that beats at 36,000 vibrations per hour. This one is the standard 28,800 vibrations per hour, but it has respectable 72 hours of power reserve, and it's an accurate movement to -5 + 3 seconds per day. Of course, the standout feature of this Grand Seiko, just like many other Grand Seikos, is the dial. I like the little texture on this dial. Apparently, it's all inspired by different natural elements found around the studio where these Grand Seikos are designed. But the thing that I'm not so keen on is the fact that it has an enclosed case back. Grand Seiko generally finishes their movements to a pretty good standard, especially for the price point, so why not show it off with a display case back? I think a bit of a missed opportunity there. This model is a limited edition to 400 pieces only, and it's priced at 6,300 euro. So if you're interested in this watch, I would get on it. I would contact my AD as soon as possible because 400 pieces are gonna fly. It's not one of those large limited releases where you have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 watches, and you can kind of take your time a little bit. With this one, yeah, you gotta get on it if you are in the market for this watch. And that's it. That's the video. Thank you for watching it all the way until the end. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what releases caught your eye, what releases you're excited about, and what releases are kind of I always enjoy reading your comments. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel for more videos like this in the future, and we'll see you next time. Bye.